This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Good morning and welcome to Guardian Radio. Today is finally Friday, March 14th, and a little after 11 o'clock in the morning, once again to CA Newry, and I shall be your host for the day. Actually, we have an open line Friday. We have an open line Friday to end the week. That means that you can call and talk about topics, subjects, what is trending in the Bahamas, and I'll be happy to give my opinion on it and share information. I see the Bahamas played yesterday. They played the United States, and I think they played Trinidad yesterday. The United States was the day before, and Trinidad yesterday. The semifinals for the Country Cup. Where are the notes going? Let me break that. The semifinals is on Saturday, and I'm kind of excited for that because Bahamas won 2 games. We beat the United States, and like I say, I think it was Trinidad. So we're kind of excited that because this Saturday can be a big day. Reading today that the 2025 CONCACAF Beach Soccer Championships is here. Matches kicks off daily from 2 p.m. at Malcolm Park Beach Soccer Stadium. Don't miss the semifinals. And the finals this Saturday and Sunday. So the finals is Sunday. The Bahamas will be playing the semifinal day finals. And it's going to be at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. 6 p.m. for the semifinals and 8 p.m. for the finals. This will be on Sunday. It's going to be a free entry. It's going to be free entry. It's going to be big energy. I mean, last night had a crowd. All of the Bahamas was out in support of the our team, right? So we're kind of excited about that. The Junkanoo Beach Boys, right? So we want everyone to turn out again for Saturday at 6 p.m. as we mash up the team to go into the finals. So it's going to be free entry. It's going to be big energy, non-stop excitement. Let's go, Junkanoo Beach Boys. Team Bahamas plays Saturday at 8 p.m. Correcting that information. I see that. Team Bahamas plays on Saturday at 8 p.m. the finals. So we need all the Bahamas. The stadium big, man. We need all of the Bahamas to come out and support and cheer on Team Bahamas, the Junkanoo Beach Boys. Okay, I was reading one text there, but they're talking about roundabouts. The proposed, just reading all these notes here. The proposed visa pause for government official is still trending. And I see one headline saying Caribbean heads. Let's see if I can see that. No, I don't want to do that. No, don't do that. Close. Says CARICOM PMs unite against U.S. policy. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. The CARICOM PMs unite against U.S. policy. I'm still looking for a official statement from CARICOM by the CARICOM head. I know we had individual statements so far from various CARICOM leaders. I know we had our Prime Minister who did a speech explaining that the Bahamas will not be dictated to, but he's saying by foreign forces. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure if he's meaning this particular issue, if it's by the United States. Of course, you had Mia Mottley said to allow her visa to be taken. Mind you, Barbados, according to the interview, do not have any Cuban nurses or doctors or workers in general working for government in Barbados. So they're not even in this conversation at all. But Mia Motley, Prime Minister Casey, is saying that if it comes to it, if you all want to take her visa, man, you could take her visa altogether. And of course, there was the Prime Minister, trying to see his name, Ralph Gonzalez, the Honorable Ralph Gonzalez, and of course, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. They all spoke regarding this because one or two of them have actually Cuban workers. They give a narrative that the Cuban doctors and nurses was used during COVID, that they are important to their health care in their individual countries, and that is unfortunate that United States seem to be My question today to my listening audience is the U.S. is saying that the Cuban workers, in this case the doctors and the nurses, are being forced to work. It's whether we believe that or not. The government said no, our government said no, they're not forced. We have a contract with the Cuban government. And that's where the U.S. is asking now, next headline, to clarify contract with the Cuban government. The government asks to clarify how Cuban workers are paid. A number of people are saying that the Cuban doctors and nurses don't get their salary directly to them, that it's paid to the Cuban government, the Cuban officials, and out of that money, they get something. And that's what the U.S. is complaining about. They work, it's their salary, which means that they get something. And how much is something, right? We know that the wages in Cuba is kind of low. And imagine being paid U.S. dollars, or in this case, good money, doctor's salary, nurse's salary, and then you get, in quotes, my word, a stipend just to survive. A number of people are saying that after the contract over, a number of these Cuban doctors and nurses just go missing. And I said, what you mean go missing? Why would you say that? He said, man, they see options. They're not going back home to Cuba. I'm not sure if that is true, but they behemoth people like talk. And if that's the case, I'm sure that our government would need to explain that what happens at the end of the contract. Do our government ensure that these workers return to the country? Or do we have any documentation on whether any of them are still here? When I say still here, they're not a part of the contract anymore, but happen to find love, get married, or receive some type of status and not a part of that program. Is that something we should also be aware of? So I found that interesting, and I'm saying that too needs to be hashed out. One of the conversation I see the Honorable Leslie Miller, former cabinet mayor, United States being heavy-handed, and that this is about the United States not wanting us to have access to proper health care. And I was thinking, Cuba had an embargo for over 50 years. We've had the upper hand in the Bahamas for over 50 years. How is it that we are depending on a country that has been technically cut off from the world? Can't get the best of technology. We have the technology, but it seems as if that country has surpassed us in terms of ensuring that their citizens are able to get the best education, better education in terms of healthcare and procedures. That's something that is a critique about us, and that moving forward, surely we should be the head of the Caribbean. I also want to have a conversation on what do we have to lose, right? At this present time, we know that Barbados have nothing to lose because they don't have any Cuban workers working there. The Bahamas, they're saying that how the official letter goes, that government officials who are involved in the hiring of these Cuban workers can be subject, or will be subject, to having their visa revoked. And I'm trying to understand what that means. What does that mean, having your visa revoked? Is that revoked without prejudice, right? And who would that be? We know it now, knowing that it's not going to be the general Bahamian public. It's going to be government officials and their families, right? PEP people who are politically exposed, their families. So I'm assuming in this particular contract, it could be, and you could call me and correct me if I'm wrong. It could be like the Minister of Foreign Affairs, because he would be involved, or his ministry would be involved in securing the contract, because it's between two governments. So more than likely, if such goes south, and I don't think it's going to go that far. No, I think that it's going to rectify itself. If it goes, but however, let's say it goes south. Can you imagine the Minister of Foreign Affairs having his visa revoked? And when he have his visa revoked, I was asking, can he travel to the United States on a police record? And I'm hearing that once your visa revoked, the United States will apply all laws that the goal is not to have you enter the country. So I find that strange. Are we willing to have the likes of our foreign affairs minister not being able to travel within the United States? To be a Zoom, is that the alternative? Then have a conversation. Who else would be involved? Perhaps more than likely it would be the Minister of Health and Wellness, right, Mr. Darville. He could get his visa revoked. And when I say him, it would be him, his wife maybe, and his children. I think he has children away in school, right? Will this revocation of visa apply to his children too, if they are in fact away in school? Is this something that they are prepared to entertain, to be concerned about? And I said, that's interesting, right? Also, who could possibly be involved is a number of the technocrats who drafted the contract. I'm not sure if that includes the Attorney General, because they draft contracts and have it legally binding, whatever it is. Can you imagine our Attorney General having, especially how he had American status at one point in time, right? Can you imagine our Attorney General having his visa revoked, and he perhaps extend to his wife, his children? Is that a possibility? Are we prepared for that? Are we prepared for even having our prime minister who likes traveling? We know the good gentleman loves traveling, right? Are we prepared to allow his visa to be revoked and they cannot enter the United States? Perhaps now have to take a longer trip to go to other places. And so these are conversations I think that our leaders need to have to inform the public. What is the worst case scenario? What are we prepared to do? I see that the Prime Minister announced that they are revisiting the contract to see if, in my words, the United States have any claims, right? Whether there is any, in quotes, human trafficking or forced labor involved. Right? And that's a different type of statement. It's a matured statement. It's something that we need to herald our Prime Minister for, because he could just speak from the belt, from the hip, shoot from the hip on that and say, hey, take it. I know some other Caribbean leaders are already shooting from the hip. Take it. We don't care, right? United States, take it. And our Prime Minister, yeah, we don't see it that way. We disagree in law. This is a legal binding contract, right? We're not taking advantage of anybody, but we'll go and look at it. We'll go and look at it and study it. Anyway, I see I have a caller there. The numbers are 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Guardian Radio AM, and we're talking about this proposed having the suspension of visas to not be able to enter the United States. Go ahead, caller. Guardian Radio AM.
Good morning, Newry.
Good morning. How you doing?
Yeah. When you have two sovereign states involved, a third party or a third state can come in and question the legitimacy or the circumstances surrounding the contract.
I'll be happy to explain that. The third party is not questioning the legitimacy of the contract at all. They are saying, no, hold on. Let me tell you what they're doing. They are saying they believe that Cuban workers are having forced labor. They're in quotes, my word, in slavery. And as the police of this hemisphere, they are prepared to do sanctions. They already put sanctions on Cuba. They're saying, hey, you are doing forced labor. We haven't. Besides the embargo, we put more sanctions on you.
Cut a
And
long
hold
story
on, let me
short.
finish. Let me finish point.
Cut a
And-
long story short.
This is a long story short. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hold on. Let me make this point. They're not forcing the Bahamas to do anything. They said we're not even gonna ask the Bahamas to do anything at all because that's y'all to do. However, we have visas, and it's our visas to give. We're saying that we ain't giving you the visa no more.
But they have international rules and international courts, right? So they can, like we say, jump to conclusion. They have to go and present that to an international body. That's like how they have all the UN.
In terms of their own sanctions, no, you don't have to. It's their sanctions for their country. We can do. We can do tariffs on goods coming into the Bahamas. Say, hey, we can charge this. No, we don't ask permission. The United States don't ask permission for their sanctions. It's their sanctions. It's not
but that's
foreign
an agreement
people.
between us and the U.S.
Like
when
I said,
you're talking about what is the situation between the Bahamas and Cuba, or Bahamas.
But you
and
missed the point
and
again,
Jamaica.
Caller, the United States said they don't want to get involved in the contract. They said y'all can do whatever y'all want. If you want to deal with Cuba, and our government remind them, say if you want to deal with Cuba, deal with them. They said
To do that.
if the United States say if the Bahamian government want to have a contract with Cuba for the Cuban labor, they can do it. They're not complaining about it at all. They're saying you could do it, however, we can give you some sanctions.
But they can't just assume things. They have to go through a formal international body and prove it. They
And
can't prove it here. Now, and
now-
then they'll have to.
Of course,
they'll
you
have
are
to
aware.
check.
Of course, you're aware that both administrations, Biden and now Trump, have done their investigation, have concluded. Whatever their investigation, the two administration, the last administration, and now this administration, they have concluded that something is wrong. Right? They use all the resources. They even use one or two of their big universities. And the university, I think it's even Harvard, the universities come and say something is wrong. They put their cards on the table. This is not a whim, like one of Trump's executive orders type thing. This is not a Trump executive orders type thing. Investigations was done. They come to a conclusion about 3, 4, 5 years ago. They put the sanction and come and say, this is what we conclude. Taking advantage of their people, and now we can put some sanctions. This is not a
the
whim.
Bahamas ain't taking advantage of them.
Say again?
The Bahamas is not taking
And
advantage of
this
them.
is why they're not involving themselves in the Bahamas. They just say that anyone who's involved in that contract of people taking advantage of people, they plan to put sanctions.
Newry,
Mm-hmm.
if you need medical assistance,
They're not talking about it, though. We're not talking about
I
it,
need medical assistance.
but we're not talking about that. We're talking about taking advantage. Like I said, if the Bahamas need medical assistance, like you said, the United States are saying you can go and seek it with whoever you
But
want it.
that mean they're dictating to a
No.
sovereign nation.
They just said, you didn't hear by said they said you could go and seek it. Go and get it. There's something to get it from. We're not going to stop you. We're not coming inside your country. We're not going to hold your hand. Not at all. However, once we ain't doing that, what we're going to do is in this case, we're going to hold or take visas out of people's hand because it's their visas to do it. Whose visa is it? Whose
They need to
visa
take
is
that-
it?
They need to take it to the international body to
Whose
adjudicate on that. My
visa
opinion.
is it? That's why I'm
Okay,
asking you.
Anyway, goodbye.
Whose visa is it?
Let them take it lump it. Goodbye.
And a number of people are mad at the United States. There are a number of people who are saying, man, we don't need United States anymore. I even seen one of those humorous posts, and the person was being cynical, that we should boycott the United States, that we should cut off our airspace, that we should cut off our waters from them. And I was like, look at these people. Lord have mercy. 90% of what we import comes from the United States. Tourism industry is based on the United States. Our culture is a spring. We speak Gullah Geechee. We speak Gullah Geechee, right? Or similar language, you know? If our textbooks are American. And I said, we're in the middle of a trade war, at least they're in the middle of a trade war, and we are having a hard time where we need to negotiate and find out how we can survive this if it's getting any worse with this, because the price is going to be high. I'm not sure if this is the time for us to be aggravating our major trading partner. especially when our goods take like a week, days or a week to come, and then trading it off to people where it takes 6 months to get goods. I'm not sure if that's wise. And this is why I appreciate our prime minister when he said, you know what, we can investigate. We ain't gonna say nothing out toward like those other Caribbean nations who don't get items from the United States. They get all that from South America and Europe because they don't have that proximity. We're the envy of the Caribbean. They all want to be in our spot. They all want to be next to the United States to get the benefit, right? They work harder. They have stronger work ethics. They depend on education because they don't have proximity to the United States. But I find that we willing to risk it all, knowing that we are not situated like how they're situated. That if we our comparative advantage, which is the proximity to the United States, if we lose that comparative advantage, we can hurt. And the hurt ain't gonna be something that we like because we used to nice things in the Bahamas. I didn't used to like nice things, and I don't want to give up my nice things. And mind you, this situation, this revocation of the visa, revocation of the visa, have nothing to do with me because it's the same like it be the parliamentarians who can get that. But I don't know how far it will go. Will they extend it to Bahamians or whatever? You know, should I be concerned that it gets any more serious? Should we get more information on what is our plan A, plan B? The Prime Minister made a speech yesterday. Should there be secondary speeches regarding what ifs? If this happens, we plan to do this, or we just play that wait and watch game. Now, mind you, the Bahamas hasn't had anyone from the United States to officially send us any letter as yet. And we have our Prime Minister intentionally was vague and said, countries, we are sovereign nations and we're not going to be dictated by any country. And I think our Prime Minister was intentional in how he said, so not to directly address the United States, not to preempt any letter, well, one letter might never come, right? So, and I believe he did that. Mind you, because I think our Prime Minister is the smarter one in contrast to Mia Motley, and I think that, but she just delivers a better speech. I think our Prime Minister wise like a serpent. He knows the law, and that he uses law, but we just don't appreciate the verbiage that he does. He's very, very particular in his verbiage, and I confess I was impressed. Right, I think that he was. His latest response was as a reaction toward a strong response to a Mia Motley. I have another caller there. I see the F&M has in the news too, so I can talk about that too. Go ahead, call. This is Guardian Radio AM.
Good morning, Mr. Newry.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Miss Green.
Oh, Miss Green is in here. She stepped up. She had to go to a funeral.
I'm sorry she's in here, but Mr. Newry, have you ever heard about the European Travel Information and Authorization System?
No.
All right. So whilst we sit and talk on the plantation, do you know that every year they have a World Government Summit, right?
Okay.
You know that, right?
Go ahead.
So I'm trying to juxtapose what the caller said and somebody spoke about yesterday. While I don't agree with what Mr. Mitchell is saying, I just want to display a degree of geopolitical naivety, and most people just hopping on the bandwagon in the geopolitical arena. Now, I agree with you in that America can do what they want because what most of us do, all right, let's say there would be travel restrictions as time go on in the post-pandemic world. I don't know if you were at COVID-19 in the Great Reset. I suggest you do. I mean, on the radio, you have a duty of care because I'm not saying that you are in the dark, but we as people sit around and we don't even know the influence that's going on around us by the billionaires that makes decisions. Now, as relates to the travel restrictions, right? This is something that even like they want to implement even without this. I mean, without this scenario that they're talking about now. So the point is then that they do what they want, and that's just the way it is. During the the Iraqi war, there was a testament by General Norman Schwarzkopf before some subcommittee or the Veterans Arms Committee, whatever. And he this is on the news. He denied he didn't know what the color bonds on the weapons meant as far as chemical and biological weapons that ammunition stamp was found. The sergeant testified that he knew right? He was just plain ignorant. Now, the fact, what this is all about is that these crates, during the footage, they show you that these crates they came from Sussex, England, Jordan, Syria, Oklahoma, England. So, in other words, it was actually documenting that these countries had actually broken the embargo and broken international law. So when you just hopping on the bandwagon, you wouldn't be able to understand what's going on in the world. We are sheep, and this is how they run the world. And so while I can't be against what the PM is saying and what Mr. Mitchell is saying, but that's the reason why I remember this European, this new travel system that they are creating. And so Mr. Mitchell is correct in a sense, but we can't stand up against these people. So the geopolitical hypocrisy and euphemism doesn't impress me because I can see through these things and I know where the world is headed. But most of us don't. And then the fact that when you hear it, you deny it. And most people denying the global government. What you think the reason? See, even when you Google and you go read up the government, the World Government Summit, right, that they do every year, they will throw in euphemism in there to make it look like, oh, it's just a bunch of people meeting together and wait. Man, come on, Mr. Newry. We got to do better than this as Negroes on the plantation, man.
Okay.
That's
Thanks very much.
Give thanks. Yeah.
Okay. One of the things I'm disappointed with this whole scenario is our reaction to it. By now, one would assume that the University of the Bahamas would have done several studies, several papers on how does the Bahamas survive without the United States. I want to talk about that. What should we be doing now, right? COVID happened and we were cut off from the United States, right? Should we have an active plan to say that this is our way forward? 9/11 happened when the whole world shut down for a minute and we were disconnected to the Bahamas. What have we learned from that? How do we survive without the United States? These conversations are not being had, right? This should be in the public. Our people should have been aware of these things. And I'm going to have a discussion with that. I see you, caller. We're going to take this quick break. Guardian Radio AM, post United States. That's the conversation. What do we do, right? What is our alternative? We'll be right back.
Just sign in and have a seat, please. They'll call you in for your x-ray shortly.
That's why they call it a waiting room. You won't have that problem at 4th Terrace Diagnostic Center or Imaging at Grosvenor. We never schedule multiple appointments, so you'll be in and out in no time. And if your initial screening reveals a concern, our radiologist can conduct an alternative screening right then and there. Call 328-8157 to schedule an appointment at 4th Terrace Diagnostic Center or Imaging at Grosvenor today.
Wednesday Lampkin. Besides carrying all the roofing material needed to cover East End, Enterprises also has all the equipment needed to put it together and to protect your workers. At Enterprises, we got hand tools, power and manual, including hacksaws, hammers, mauls, wrecking bars, well, hopefully they won't need them yet, drill bits, tape, and more. We got cement, concrete bond and fiber, lime, sand, and P-rock. We got dust masks, safety glasses, gloves, hard hats, and high visibility vests. Lampkin, what we got here at Enterprises is a one-stop shop for builders.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Everybody Wins Live is bringing you the ultimate giveaway, a brand new Cybertruck. For every $30 spent, you're in the drawing for the ultimate grand prize, a Cybertruck. Drawing live at the Vibes Cartel concert March 29th. You'll also be automatically entered to win tickets to see the world boss himself. 25 lucky winners every single week. Visit everybodywinslive.com to get into the game. See website for full terms and conditions. Must be 18 or over to participate.
And welcome back to Guardian Radio AM. This is C.A. Newry. Before the break, I was talking about post-United States, our alternative to the United States. What type of conversations we should have been having? How come the University of the Bahamas haven't done any studies yet? How come the government hasn't done any studies yet to wean us away of our dependency of the United States? How come we still import 90%? How come we are still attached to their social program, right? What should we be doing now that we understand that there are pressures and that the world is changing? I see you, caller. We'll come to you shortly. I have this text that says, good morning. I don't think the cancellation of the U.S. visas for Bahamian government officials will have any impact now because the states since the indictment was issued in November 2024. As a matter of fact, I have only seen reports of travel for 3 government ministers since then. That's a conspiracy theory, I guess. I see where you go with that. But yeah, they have all kind of traveling going on still by various ministers out of state. So how does the Bahamas survive without the United States? Here's my paper on the subject. We don't. The end. No, I think we have ideas and innovative people. Morning, Newry. Why don't the PM don't tell the U.S. stay out of our business? Do you know the United States still listen to our telephone calls? We never tell them stop it. No, we can't tell them stop. We don't have the technology. They have the technology. I know everyone say, "Oh, we're a sovereign nation. We can tell them to do whatever," and I say, "Okay, do that, and see." Let's go to the callers there. Guardian Radio AM caller, welcome. Can you hear me, caller? Go ahead, caller. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, great. Well, I'm trying to understand the topic with Cuba. Is the United States trying to tell the Caribbean nations that they cannot go over there to have operations perform on them because the Cuban doctors them actually get paid minimum wage?
No.
Because I heard, I think it's the Prime Minister of Barbados talking about
she don't have one Cuban doctor or nurse in Barbados.
Well, they was talking about how they couldn't make it without the Cuban doctors during the pandemic.
Okay.
Right? That was one topic she brought up.
Mm-hmm.
Many eyes, limbs, and stuff like that. I know that wouldn't have been during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm trying to see whether this is deeper than we actually think.
And
what the United States is trying to do.
And this is the issue where I see the United States. When I say the United States, I'm talking about the two previous, or the previous administration and this current administration saying, right? They usually, when you have a work exchange, the people who work get paid. They're saying that the people who work in aren't getting paid at all. They are getting like a stipend. All of the money in that contract is going for the edification of the Cuban government. They say they have a problem with that. And that's what the debate is about. They have a problem with that.
But isn't that the truth?
I don't know. Now, we were asked, our government was asked to explain how the money is paid, where the money is paid. And we have to wait until our government responds. And I'm sure our government say, no, man, they get the money in their hand.
No, I think they come over on a contract. Now, the government probably take care of them and they give them a stipend here. But I most believe everything goes to the Cuban government because, they only get minimum wage over there. So I don't think the Cuban government will come here and let them get paid hundreds or thousands of dollars off their own.
And that's a debate.
In that case, I understand it, but I think it goes deeper than that. I think the U.S. wants us the Caribbean countries to stop going over there.
No. We can do whatever we want.
Or forcing us.
They can't force us to do anything we don't want to do.
Through sanctions. The U.S.
They just doing sanctions for the politicals, man. Be straight.
And then, see, the thing about it is the average Bahamian can probably suffer the blunt, but it's those who are in these high seats who can't suffer that because they're so used to going to the U.S. and stuff like that, they can't suffer that. So they can look out for their benefits. So it's a tricky situation. So I just pray that we get it sorted out.
Thank you very much, Cole. I appreciate it.
All right, have a good day.
Comparing the Cuban contract what we have with them to the contract that we in the Bahamas had with the United States about 50, 60 years ago, more than that, about 70 years ago, 80 years ago with a farming contract. But that farming contract, the workers got all their money. They got some money that they got while they was living in the United States on the farms, and then the rest of the money was sent home to their families, but they get 100% of that money. The United States is saying that, no, that ain't the same thing. The Cubans, he ain't getting no 100%. He ain't getting no 80%. They ain't getting no 70%. And it goes down. And they want the Bahamian government to explain. So how much are these Cuban doctors and nurses getting? Are they getting 10% of their money? 20% of their money? I guess that's something, especially if they have the expertise. but they're saying that their labor is owned, that they are owned, right? They have no rights. These are forced labor. They couldn't even pick and choose if they could come to the Bahamas or not. Say where they ain't going. You either go or else, and that's what the discussion is about. Are we a part of go or else? Go ahead, caller. Guardian Radio AM. Go to the next caller, comment. Guardian Radio
hello?
AM. Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, you can hear me?
I can hear you loud. Go ahead.
Yeah. Boy, we are in a tricky situation. You know, we need the USA. And, like, 80% of our, what I would say, 80% of our revenue or whatever come from tourism. That's our number one industry. And most of the tourists come from the USA. Okay?
I'll ask you this. Should we risk it? You think that we should risk it over we can stand on principle, and if we lose everything, at least our conscience is clear.
I mean, I don't think it's on my end. I can hardly hear you. But anyway, this is the point. I think we need the USA. Now, we know Cuba is a communist country, and that's one of the problem. And that's why the money go back to them, to the Cuban government, and they give what they want to give. And so if we could get some people from somewhere else, then I think we'll be in. But again, we need the USA. So, you know, our number one industry is tourism.
Thank you very much, caller. I appreciate you.
Come from the US.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next caller there, Kermit. Guardian Radio AM. This is the Newry.
Good afternoon, CA. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good afternoon, Aaron.
No, Aaron is not here.
You know, let me see how I can fix this little things that we are in. You know, sometimes I be listening, but let me tell you what happening to our country. Either Moses crew, them destroying our country. And let me tell you why they're afraid now. See, many people like politicians like travel to the States. And what make it so, see, I listen to the news and sensibly, they say they could take the visa away from the children and all. See, I know these things can happen a long time ago. I saw them these things 15, 20 years ago. Look at these politicians in Bahamas don't like Bahamians. And I ain't sorry for them. But with Marco Rubio now, the half-breed Cuban, then now he better watch himself. But I like Trump. See, Trump trying to make America and bring back good jobs to America. Our politicians can start doing what's best for the Bahamian people. Hey, when you see, and look at God waking, you know. God is waking. See, everything happening has to happen. They ain't got no Freedom of Information Act. Nobody is slow listening. They call them police force go up. They call them the judges go up. So we need to fix this thing, man. And by the way, tell Naughty the Wi-Fi was working on the park now, right? And time to take my call.
Okay, thanks very much. I just wanted to correct you there. It is not the court of children in general that is going to be affected by this. It's basically politicians, those who involved inside this contract with this Cuban government and their families, their immediate families. So it could be their children. It could be their children. It could be their wives, maybe uncle and auntie, right? But we have to wait and see. But I'm saying that perhaps our leaders or the technocrats need to come forward and explain this to us, leaving the country in a vacuum of information and have us all guessing, all assuming, all vexed. And whereas they could explain, right? We have a position. Our official position is we haven't broken any laws. We don't see it as any forced labor. We don't see it as any human trafficking. And the United States demand or asking, then provide the records and show that it's not what they say. But it's two different administrations who did research and have come, and universities in the United States, and have concluded that something untoward is happening and they want it to stop. Now it's up to us to say, whatever is happening, we are prepared to follow through, and whatever politician who get their visas revoked, they ain't traveling. I mean, they ain't traveling through the United States. You know, they can't get their police record to go to the United States. They would have to take whatever long trip, go maybe to Jamaica first or Barbados first, and then fly to wherever else, or fly to Canada and then fly to wherever else they have. But a number of our connecting flights goes to the United States, right? But they straight. They have money. They can avoid all of that, right? But my thing is, what should we be doing, right? moving forward, we know this trade war, we need to produce more. We try to produce more eggs and try to do more farming. But we have up to 90% of our produce we import, right? What can we do to feel more independent, to feel more sovereign, right? And again, especially in an atmosphere in a world where we cannot even police our airspace properly, where we need assistance in policing our waters. It's surely we are dependent. We are dependent on the United States. And when we decide to flex our muscles, my mother would have said, when you decide to smell yourself, remember how much we depend on the United States when we decide to smell ourselves and act out, right? And like I said, I still applaud the Prime Minister on the verbiage he's used. It was a tricky verbiage had to be used, right? He needed to sound strong. He did sound strong. We will not be dictated to, right? But we're going to investigate to see if there's any possibilities. And now we leave that and see. And hopefully within weeks and hopefully short days, Prime Minister will come back or Minister or Foreign Affairs will come back and say, we have investigated this. We find there's nothing untoward towards that. We have forwarded the information to the United States. And like I said, the United States haven't sent us anything formally as yet, right? So I think there might be all kind of hullabaloo over nothing. So they say, this text says, we need Jesus. Tourists is not only Americans. We have Europeans, Chinese, Africans, others coming to our shore. And my response to that is it's 70% plus. Percent is American alone, one country alone. The majority of our tourists come from the Florida and the tri-state area. 70+%, almost 80% is Americans alone. You can't say, they're Europeans, Chinese, and Africans. That only make up 30%. All of them together. The whole world after that come together, make up a mere 30%. Yes, that means we need to be concerned. We need to be concerned. We know where our bread and butter is buttered. So our bread is buttered. So we need to be concerned. And I said our leaders owe us a duty of care to just explain what is happening, right? We might be up in arms and concerned over nothing. Like I said, the United States ain't sent us nothing yet, man, right? But like I said, our Prime Minister, he's looking into it. And as he look into it, we wait for the response. And then we can, as constituents, can respond appropriately, right? So good day. You know, them politicians ain't coming back to us with any information about this till the visa get canceled. No, I believe that our Prime Minister and our Minister of Foreign Affairs is going to do an investigation and that they will come back to us and that they will explain exactly what is happening. And I believe that on our side, the Bahamas side, we haven't done anything untoward. I think that we entered this agreement with Cuba in good faith. We needed nurses and doctors, and we had the money to pay, and we paid the money. Now, is there any concern where that money is going? There might be, and because of that, we need to look into it and then have a conclusion with it. Right? I see Dr. Sands says, Sands expressed concerns over U.S. policy on Cuban medical mission. Mind you, he worked at the hospital. No. I wonder if he's just being the chairman of the F&M, and that's why he's asking these questions. He's quite aware of what's happening, right? He's being there. He was Minister of Health. We've had Cubans in the country working on before, right? So he might just be political with this and pushing the issue for brownie points. So, but it's something that must be asked. It's something that the government must respond to. You can't just go mute when there's an international response, right? And I mind you, I watching the Caribbean and their response, and I don't think their response is appropriate for us. It just doesn't suit us. We're the ones who are close to the United States, who have the large import from the United States, and they tend to import from South America and Europe. They don't need United States as much as we need United States. And as we do these social media commentary of our nation and to be damned to those to U.S. and whatever it is, we must be cognizant that they are major trading partners. We are ontologically American in terms of culture and customs. We depend upon them for our commerce and economy, and we need to consider all of that as we make decisions. And like the Prime Minister said, the decisions is going to be made in our best interest. So they're going to weigh the pros and cons and see what it is. And even though we have spoken out on behalf of Cuba before in terms of ending the sanctions that the United States have against Cuba, right? When we make decisions, even with our colleagues or trading partners or whatever it is, we must be cognizant that the Bahamas must come first. Our survivability must come first. Whatever is in our best interest must come first. Even if we're dealing with CARICOM, we must analyze everything and say, the Bahamas come first, and this is good for us. Say, you did not read my text, but it's clear the first thing hospitalized, which text it says, nobody talks about scanning. Trying to see how come you said I didn't read the text. Okay. This is a text here. I assume that he's saying or she's saying that I didn't read. This isn't a technology issue. It's an intellectual issue. The Cuban government had a long-standing strategic plan to develop the best medical minds in the world. We had no such plans, and we still don't. Nobody talks about coming to the Bahamas for the best medical care. I think we have the best doctors in the world. I mean, we go into some best schools in the world. Some finances is costing us not to do as well as we could. But we have some of the best doctors in the world. I mean, we train in the United States. We train at the University of the West Indies. And of course, the University of the West Indies produce some of the best doctors in the world. To say that we are naturally inferior to the Cuban doctors, I don't necessarily think that's true, right? Some things I've seen doctors here critique saying the Cubans, they ain't doing that properly. We doing it better than them. So I hear you, caller. But no, I think we are aptly competent and can compete against any doctors around the world. So I go back to this text where you say I didn't read it. Say, you did not read my text, but it's clear the first thing hospitalized tourists and their families do once they're stabilized is ask to get out of here. Even if they're at the premier health facilities, Bahamians don't flock to Cuba just because it's cheap. They go because it is recognized as, where is it? As having world-class health professionals. Quality of care is always the first concern. Cuba got to where they are through long-standing government strategy to create the best. We don't have that. We've been aimless in a national level and practically everything, right? That's subjective. I like I said, I think the Bahamas have very competent doctors. As a development nation, there are some issues, but we have one of the better hospitals in the Caribbean, right? The vaccines and the World Health Organization saved no lives, but rather took lives. The world leaders are hypocritical as they see fit. Why they shut down during pandemics, destroy businesses' lives? Man, thank God for the World Health Organization, WHO. I ain't gonna let you demean them. They have helped us throughout the world, especially with vaccinations and whatever it is, and I want to applaud them. There's no need to bash them. I think we are caught between a rock and a hard place. I appreciate the Cuban Medical Exchange Program. It has saved many Bahamian lives, okay? But if it's true that these people are a part of this program, whether they want to or not, then it's a problem. We can't be a part of taking advantage of people just for our own benefit. We need answers. And I think that's reasonable, Texter. If they are being forced to work, saying that you are going to the Bahamas, you are going to Trinidad, and that's that, right? That's problematic, right? If they are being paid a good salary and they're getting a quarter of that good labor belongs to the state and not themselves, that's problematic, right? We're a civilized country, especially in Africa, a country from African people, majority African people, whose ancestors went through slavery, forced labor. We are naturally supposed to say or be concerned about anyone being forced. It's part of our Constitution. We have no one be no bondsman in the Bahamas. And if there are people who are bondsmen in the Bahamas, because it's a part of our Constitution to be anti that, we have a duty of care to investigate, to weed it out, to stop it, even if we wasn't sure that it exists before, but now that it's being highlighted, all right, we need to at least do that, do a duty of care, right? I see a text where they don't want me to. Oh, okay. I see you call the text. I read that. Okay, I won't read that out loud, right? But that's one of the conversations. It's now 12 o'clock. It's 12 o'clock. Of course, that game for CONCACAF, it's tomorrow, where we having the John Canoe Beach Boys are playing. They're playing in the semifinals. They're playing at 8 o'clock. We need a huge Bahamian crowd out there. The ticket's free. The ticket's free. You just show up. Go there, bring your flags, bring your rags. You cheer them on. I mean, we have a superior team. I mean, the idea that they dominated the United States the other day, whether the high seeds the other day, shows how dynamic our Bahamian team is. It's going to be a beautiful semifinals. We want them to go to the finals, so we need them. We need us to come out there and cheer them on. That when they make it to the finals, it could be a big celebration. Anyway, this has been Guardian Radio AM with C.A. Newry. Have a wonderful day. See you next week.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.